All right, less than 30 minutes away from the big Fed announcement as to whether it's going to raise rates. Most expect it will. So much to touch on there, as you can see the broader aggregate of stocks, the S&P 500 like the Dow, down, but it's been an aggressive 5 weeks, to put it mildly, since the election of Donald Trump. Alice Rivlin is here, the former Federal Reserve Vice Chair, Office of Manager and Budget Director, so much else. Very good to have you, Alice. Thanks for coming.
Good to be here.
What do you think? Raise rates today? I think it seems to be increasingly a given. I know that's always risky, but everyone seems to think a lot more hikes are coming afterwards because of what's been going on. Do you agree?
Well, they'll certainly raise today. It would be a shock if they didn't. We'd all be surprised. They've been communicating that for months, and everybody's expecting it. So I think they will raise today, and they will raise some more in the coming year. How fast will depend on what happens to the economy, how they read the situation, especially with respect to inflation. I don't think they're very worried about inflation, although it's come back toward their goal of 2%. I think their primary motive in raising is to get back to something we used to call normal. Yeah. So that if we did have another recession, they could move down again.
Let's say they get up and they telegraph, I guess, in the remarks later on that rather than 2 rate hikes, I guess, that we're expecting for 2017, we see 4 or 5. How do you think that would go down? I know you tried not to look at the market fallout, but I'm sure in your days there and prior, I mean, you're well aware of it. It was Alan Greenspan. We just recently celebrated the 20-year anniversary of the famous irrational exuberance speech. You're aware of how markets can get irrational and exuberant at the same time. Do you factor that in, or you try to be blind to that?
Oh, somewhere in between. I don't think that the Fed will be particularly focused on the market reaction at the moment. They're trying to see how fast to get back to, as I said, normal. I doubt that they will be very specific about their intentions. Why should they be? We're in a big moment of uncertainty about what this new administration will do and how they will work with Congress. Fiscal policy could be either very stimulative or not. Nobody knows.
What do you think of the way the markets seem to have telegraphed that it's going to be very stimulative? Maybe they've gotten ahead of themselves, or what? Last 5 weeks have been unprecedented. What do you make of that?
Well, markets are wonderful, and that's what this show is about. Yeah. But markets don't actually know what will happen. And I think there's a tendency to assume when you have a new president, especially a kind of maverick president, that what he said he would do is what will happen. But we don't actually know that. He's got to deal with a very fractured Congress. Absolutely. Fractured within his own Republican Party. Not everybody's going to be enthusiastic about a big stimulus. The Freedom Caucus is not.
Including Mitch McConnell. You're right about it. You are worried about what he wants to do on, I'm sorry, but you are interested in what he wants to do on health care. You'd recently written, the president-elect needs to act quickly to persuade Congress to replace Obamacare. At the same time, it enacts repeal. If he allows immediate repeal accompanied with a vague promise of replacement later, he will have an unnecessary calamity on his hands. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think if they just repeal Obamacare, then they have 20 million people who don't have insurance. Right. And the president-elect has said he doesn't want that. He wants a transition. What they are talking about now is to repeal at a future effective date. But I don't think that's a good idea at all, because it risks losing both customers, enrollment, and insurance companies who are not terrible, some of them not doing terribly well in this market. So you might get a meltdown in the individual insurance market. I don't think they want that to happen. It affects a lot of the people who voted for President Trump. It affects workers and middle and lower income people who buy insurance in the individual market. And that isn't just the people on the exchanges set up by the Affordable Care Act. It's a lot more people. So it could be a mess. I don't think they want a mess. And if they don't, then they should work with a bipartisan coalition and say, what are we going to do to replace this? And I think there is a good set of things that they could do which would fix some of the structural problems in Obamacare and add some of the Republican ideas that have been floating around and come up with a
there are a lot of good ones. There are a lot of good ones. And you outlined a lot of good ones. We're going to have that up on our website so people to read and follow, because some of them are very solid ideas. Alice Rivlin, thank you for taking the time. We appreciate it.